Hello, and welcome to English and Immigration, your source of information about Canada. On this channel, we discuss the realities of Canada. What is life really like in this country so that you make more informed choices? Now, the topic of today's video is Canada one country or is it 13? Now, you may be surprised. Why 13? Well, if you know a little bit about Canada, you know that there are 10 provinces and 3 territories. And they are quite different from one another. That's why I'm saying it's 13 different countries, because there are significant differences. And if you are going to immigrate to Canada, what you need to do is to research the province, not the whole country. Research the province you are immigrating to, because things are not the same within the country. So, to understand how such differences happen, you need to know a little bit about the history of Canada. And in the beginning, 1867, Canada wasn't as big as it is now. Just these provinces, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, joined together to form a new country of Canada. And what they started doing is they started inviting other provinces to join them. So they asked, for example, British Columbia, come join us. Now, British Columbia looked across and said, you guys are really far from us. And British Columbia was actually thinking about joining the United States. It was much closer for them. But they ended up joining Canada because Canada offered them a deal. Said, we'll build a railroad across all the other colonies at that time so that we can exchange goods and do business. So they built that railroad pretty fast in just 5 years because they really wanted British Columbia to join. But before British Columbia joined, we had Manitoba joining just 3 years later. Then we had Northwest Territories joining, then British Columbia, and slowly all other parts of the country was formed within years, not right away. Now, because of that, so each of these provinces and territories already had its own government. They were already making their own decisions. And that government and those decisions are still very strong now. By the way, the last province to join Canada was Newfoundland. People from Newfoundland are quite independent, and for the longest time they were saying, no, thank you, we don't want to join Canada, we're good. But eventually they agreed to join as well. So there are different responsibilities for the federal government. Federal government means the government of the whole country, and different responsibilities for provinces and territories, and also there's another level which is municipal. Now, the government of Canada, the whole country, deals with things like immigration, citizenship, criminal law, foreign affairs, anything that concerns something outside, like say a relationship and with business with the United States. That would be federal government doing it. But things that are important for an immigrant coming into the country, things like healthcare, education, provincial and territorial taxes, there's also federal taxes, but taxes, and labor, job licensing, that is all dealt by provincial and territorial governments. So each of these provinces deals with their own things. And that's why they're so different. Now, when we talk about, for example, taxes, you may be surprised to know that different provinces charge different amount of taxes. For example, Alberta, and everybody loves Alberta for that, charges 0 sales tax. So when you go shopping, you're buying something, you're not paying provincial tax. You'll still have to pay federal 5%, but you're not paying any provincial tax. Compared to other provinces, for example, Ontario or Quebec, where you would have to pay. Now, how much? Quebec, 10%. So compare Alberta and Quebec, 0 and 10. Big difference. Nova Scotia, same thing, 10% sales tax. So by the price that you see, you'll be paying 10% more and 5%, actually 15% in taxes. Now, the same applies to income tax. Where you are in Canada, federal government will charge you tax. They'll charge you 15%, doesn't matter where you live in the country. But the province where you live will also charge you income tax, collect income tax. Now, how much income tax? What is the lowest? What is the best province for income tax? If you're earning around $30,000 a year, then the best place to be would be British Columbia, 5%, and Ontario, 5%. If you're thinking about immigrating to any of these. Now, if you choose to go to Alberta, your income tax would be 10%. If you choose to go to Saskatchewan, a lot of people nowadays thinking about immigrating to Saskatchewan, 10.5%. And finally, I'm not going to say the worst, but the most challenging one, Quebec, 15%. So think about it. If you're coming to Canada, you think, I want to earn money, 15% versus. So now that was the difference in taxes. Now let's talk about the difference in education. A lot of immigrants come to Canada because of their children, because they want their children to get good education. Are all the provinces the same? No. If you have small children, or if you're planning to have more children, and you need, say, daycare services. Daycare is where you leave your kid for the day as you're going to work. Now, if you immigrate to Quebec, their daycare is subsidized and will only cost you $7.75 per day, which adds up to about $230 per month in daycare cost for one child. Compared to, say, Ontario. If you're immigrating to Ontario and you need daycare services, then you could expect to pay up to $800, $900, up to $1,000 per one child for daycare costs. That's why a lot of people in Ontario only have one child, or they stay at home and take care of their children by themselves, because daycare is expensive. So that's for small children. Now, if your children are of school age, older, they need to go to school. Again, the same question, is all public education the same all across the country? Are all schools the same? No. Each province is responsible for their own public schooling. And for you as a parent, you would need to do your research. You would need to look and see which schools are good schools. So even before you're coming to Canada, or if you're already in Canada, you need to research good schools and move to that neighborhood and live in that neighborhood so your child could attend a good school. Now let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare, if you have a family member with healthcare issues, specific healthcare problems, the best hospitals are in Ontario. There are lots of different types of hospitals. Now, British Columbia also has very good healthcare system. Nova Scotia is pretty good. If you're wondering where's the worst, Newfoundland was ranked the worst, and Saskatchewan is not the best. Depends on what's the ranking is based on. But again, if you're thinking all healthcare system and services is the same everywhere in the country, it's not. Do your research, see what is covered by the medical insurance, provincial insurance plan. So do they cover medication? Do they cover, usually they don't. So do your research about individual provinces' healthcare system to choose, again, if that's what you need. Now, the last but not the least, what we're going to discuss today is your job licensing. If you're working in a regulated profession, what I mean by regulated is controlled by the government. So which professions are controlled by the government? You must be licensed in Canada. That would be, for example, teachers, any medical professional, engineers. And there's a list of regulated professions. So that differs slightly by the province. And if your profession is regulated and you're coming to Canada, you need to get not a Canadian license, you need to get the license of the province where you are immigrating. And unfortunately, that license is no good in other provinces. So if you're an engineer, you're coming to Canada, you choose Ontario, you manage to get Ontario license, you're staying in Ontario. If you want to go and say work in Alberta, you'd have to get a second license. Your Ontario license will not work there. So choose your province carefully. Do your research and go based on, make an informed decision. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.